What makes this situation feel so unbelievable is that it no longer comes across like some passing celebrity controversy. It feels more like watching someone with enormous influence slowly lose control of a carefully built empire in real time. The public perception now is that Blake Lively had everything lined up perfectly, pushed too hard trying to control the narrative, underestimated how ugly the backlash could become, and somehow ended up damaging her own reputation while the very person she tried to corner walked away stronger than before. That is the part people cannot stop talking about. Honestly, Blake Lively seemed completely convinced she was about to pull off one of the biggest Hollywood victories imaginable. You could almost feel the confidence behind the scenes, like she believed the industry would automatically protect her status, shield her image, and make this entire conflict disappear quietly in her favor. Instead, the entire thing detonated publicly in ways nobody expected, especially not her. And the speed at which everything unraveled has been shocking to watch. Because once public opinion started shifting, the momentum completely flipped against her almost overnight. The harsh truth about Hollywood is that loyalty only exists while somebody remains profitable, adored, and easy to support publicly. The second controversy enters the picture, people start creating distance fast. Suddenly phone calls stop getting returned, public support disappears, and industry friendships become suspiciously quiet. That cold shift is exactly what many people believe happened to Blake during this entire saga. Because when things were glamorous and polished, everybody wanted proximity to her. Once the backlash started building online, the silence became deafening. And what makes the timing so devastating is the fact that It Ends With Us was supposed to become a massive career moment for Blake Lively. The film generated attention everywhere, audiences were heavily invested, and financially it looked like the beginning of a giant franchise opportunity. In Hollywood terms, that kind of success usually guarantees bigger paydays, more influence, and an even stronger position moving forward. Most actors dream about landing in a successful franchise because sequels practically print money when audiences stay invested. Blake appeared positioned perfectly for exactly that future. But somewhere in the middle of all this chaos, everything changed. Instead of the conversation staying focused on the success of the movie itself, the spotlight shifted directly onto the escalating tension surrounding Justin Baldoni and Blake. And once that happened, the project itself almost became secondary to the controversy surrounding the people involved. Now the situation reportedly looks completely different behind the scenes because Justin Baldoni appears ready to continue moving forward while Blake is seemingly frozen out of the future of the franchise entirely. That is a staggering reversal considering where things originally stood. And the public sympathy angle makes it even worse. Justin Baldoni has not been flooding the media with chaotic interviews or dramatic appearances. He has mostly stayed relatively restrained publicly, which ironically seems to have helped him enormously online. While Blake continues facing non-stop criticism across social media, Justin's quieter approach has allowed many viewers to interpret him as the calmer figure in the middle of the storm. Right or wrong, perception matters more than almost anything in celebrity culture. And right now the perception battle appears to be heavily favoring him. The other brutal reality here is ownership and control. Justin Baldoni's company reportedly maintains significant control connected to the franchise rights, which means Blake cannot simply force her way back into the project through influence alone. That changes the power balance entirely. If the reports are accurate, Justin holds the leverage moving forward, not Blake. And for someone used to operating from a position of enormous celebrity power, that kind of shift has to feel devastating privately. Especially with reports floating around that Blake potentially lost tens of millions tied to future sequel opportunities connected to this fallout. Numbers like that change conversations very quickly. But honestly, the thing that stands out most throughout this entire situation is not even the lawsuits or the headlines. It is the silence surrounding Blake from inside Hollywood itself. Because when celebrities are truly protected and deeply supported within the industry, people usually rush out publicly to defend them. Friends suddenly appear in interviews offering support. Famous allies post subtle messages online. Anonymous sources leak positive quotes to entertainment outlets. That is how Hollywood normally operates when somebody powerful needs backup. Yet throughout this controversy, Many people noticed the exact opposite happening. The support never arrived in the loud, overwhelming way many expected. And in Hollywood, silence can sometimes say more than words ever could. Even the people closest to her seemed to vanish into the background during this entire chaos. And trust me, the internet noticed every second of it. Because strangers criticizing a celebrity online is normal. That happens every single day. But when longtime friends, family members, and powerful connections suddenly stop speaking up publicly for you, people immediately start wondering what is happening behind the scenes. And with Blake Lively, that silence became louder than anything she could have said herself. Then came the friendship rumors, and honestly, this part turned brutal fast. Because Blake spent years carefully building this image of being surrounded by Hollywood royalty, especially her very public friendship with Taylor Swift. That friendship became part of Blake's identity in the public eye. The glamorous dinners, private parties, exclusive photos, celebrity inner circle energy. It all helped create this feeling that Blake belonged to an untouchable elite group. But the second the Justin Baldoni controversy exploded, people started paying attention to every tiny detail. Suddenly, Taylor and Blake were no longer constantly seen together. Fans began dissecting every missing interaction, every public absence, every awkward moment that looked even slightly distant. And then those strange rumors surfaced claiming Blake had already planned ahead for Taylor's future wedding before anything was even officially announced publicly. Honestly, if true, it came across less like confidence, and more like somebody trying desperately to prove a friendship was still alive while the public kept suspecting it was fading away. Social media absolutely devoured that narrative. People started accusing Blake of holding tightly onto celebrity friendships because her own public image suddenly looked unstable. And once the internet locks onto a storyline like that, it spreads everywhere within days. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni kept appearing calm, controlled, and strangely untouched by the chaos publicly. And that contrast made Blake's situation look even worse. Because while Blake's reputation online seemed to grow more chaotic every week, Justin started being framed as the steady family man who survived a brutal Hollywood storm and quietly came out stronger on the other side. That became the dominant online narrative whether people agreed with it or not. And honestly, Justin's wife Emily played a huge part in shaping that perception too. Throughout the entire controversy, Emily Baldoni stayed publicly supportive without turning the situation into a media circus. She never looked attention-hungry, bitter, or overly dramatic. She simply stayed beside her husband calmly while the internet watched everything unfold in real time. And people notice those things immediately during celebrity scandals because audiences always study the spouses closely. They believe the husband or wife reveals the truth without even speaking. So online discussions quickly shifted into comparisons between Emily standing beside Justin through the storm, while Ryan Reynolds seemed to slowly disappear into the background while Blake absorbed most of the backlash herself. And honestly, Ryan started catching heat too because for years his entire public brand depended on being the lovable funny guy everyone adored. But once Blake revealed during interviews that Ryan had quietly rewritten scenes for It Ends With Us, public opinion started shifting dramatically. Suddenly people began questioning whether Blake and Ryan had been trying to take over creative control behind the scenes from the very beginning. That single detail completely changed the conversation online. Instead of Blake simply acting in the project, audiences began viewing the situation like a celebrity power couple stepping into someone else's film and slowly reshaping it around themselves. And once that perception spread online, the backlash intensified fast. People started accusing Blake of treating the movie more like a personal image project than a story carrying serious emotional weight. And honestly, her promotional interviews only made everything worse because audiences expected sensitivity and seriousness around the film's themes, but instead many viewers walked away feeling disconnected from the way the entire press tour was handled. While all of this chaos kept exploding online, Justin Baldoni was out there handling interviews in a completely different way. Every time he spoke publicly, he focused on the emotional themes of the film, the difficult conversations surrounding it, and the responsibility of telling a story with serious weight behind it. He approached the project carefully, almost cautiously, like he understood exactly how sensitive the subject matter was supposed to be. Meanwhile, Blake Lively's press tour ended up creating a completely different reaction online. And honestly, the internet never really moved past it. Because while Justin was discussing the emotional impact of the movie itself, Blake's interviews kept circling back to fashion, styling, floral looks, glamorous appearances, and outfit conversations. And audiences noticed that disconnect immediately. People online started reacting like she was promoting a bright summer comedy instead of a film centered around painful emotional themes. Every interview clip became another argument across social media because viewers kept asking the same question over and over again. Did Blake actually understand the emotional tone of the movie she was starring in? That criticism spread everywhere fast. Suddenly, every red carpet appearance, every light-hearted comment, every styling discussion started getting analyzed through a much harsher lens. And honestly, that became one of the biggest turning points in public opinion against her because audiences felt emotionally disconnected from the way the project was being presented publicly. Now the rumors coming out of Hollywood are sounding even darker for Blake professionally, because insiders are allegedly saying her career momentum has almost completely stalled behind the scenes. No massive casting announcements. No exciting blockbuster reveals. No major studios publicly racing to attach her to new projects. Just silence. And silence in Hollywood can be terrifying because the industry moves incredibly fast. The second momentum disappears, attention shifts somewhere else immediately. There is always another younger actress, another rising celebrity, another trending social media personality waiting for the spotlight. Hollywood rarely waits for anyone. And Blake absolutely understands that reality better than most people. That is why these Vogue rumors suddenly started exploding online. There is growing speculation that Anna Wintour and Vogue could potentially help orchestrate some carefully designed image rehabilitation moment for Blake somewhere down the line. People are already imagining the entire rollout before it even happens. A perfectly styled magazine cover. Soft emotional lighting. Blake photographed looking reflective and vulnerable while discussing personal growth, motherhood, healing, or surviving difficult public experiences. The entire celebrity redemption formula practically writes itself at this point because audiences have seen this exact strategy happen countless times before. The pattern is always similar. A celebrity disappears quietly during backlash, avoids major appearances for a while, then suddenly returns with an elegant magazine spread designed to soften public perception again. Usually there are dramatic photos near windows, emotional quotes about self-reflection, carefully curated styling choices, and an interview crafted to gently reshape the public narrative. But the problem for Blake is that many people online already believe they can see the strategy coming before it even happens, which means the audience may not respond the same way they once would have years ago. Social media users keep asking the same brutal question too. Why would Vogue risk placing Blake on a major cover right now if she does not currently have a massive project, comeback film, or cultural achievement attached to her name? Vogue covers traditionally celebrate power, influence, relevance, and major career moments. They usually spotlight celebrities dominating headlines in positive ways. But right now, Blake Lively's name has become heavily connected to controversy instead of career momentum. That is why many people online believe a potential Vogue feature would look less like genuine celebration and more like obvious reputation repair. Meanwhile, the financial headlines surrounding Blake and Ryan Reynolds only added more fuel to the backlash online. Because while Blake continued appearing at luxury events and glamorous fashion appearances, reports simultaneously started circulating about contractor disputes and millions allegedly tied up in unpaid home construction issues. And the timing of those stories could not have looked worse publicly. Regular people are already struggling financially everywhere, so hearing stories about wealthy celebrities allegedly owing workers money while still attending designer-filled celebrity events created immediate outrage online. That completely shattered the relatable image Blake and Ryan had spent years carefully building together. And honestly, this is the stage where celebrity scandals become extremely difficult to recover from because the controversies stop existing separately. The public starts stacking every issue together into one giant narrative. One controversy becomes three controversies. Then suddenly old interviews resurface. Awkward moments get reposted constantly. and criticisms people ignored years earlier suddenly start sounding believable. That is exactly what is happening to Blake now. The internet is revisiting older clips, old red carpet moments, old interviews, and comments that previously went unnoticed. Once public perception shifts against a celebrity, everything starts looking different through that new lens. And right now Blake Lively seems trapped in exactly that situation publicly. At this point, Blake is facing one of the hardest positions any Hollywood celebrity can end up in because the conversation surrounding her no longer feels temporary. Feels like the entire public narrative around her has fundamentally changed.